Alright, hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, and today, well, you clicked on it, you know what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Wolverine #1. I think it's very fitting to wear my X-Men #5 t-shirt. You can find this shirt online. It's pretty dope. I have multiple Wolverine shirts, but this one is the one that works. I really wanted to find an X-Men #4 shirt. There used to be one out there, but it's not. So, Wolverine #1, we're going to be talking about. We're going to be using my Alex Ross variant to talk about this. Alex Ross is, man, he just makes art, man. I love this. Could not get the Virgin variant on that. I've backed off on variants. I sent a tweet out saying I've backed off on variants for the most part. Um, uh, and I'll probably still pick up a standard copy to read more often and keep the variants. But I did pick up two other variants because it's Wolverine #1 by Ben Percy, and I'm going to C2E2, and Ben Percy is going to be at C2E2, as well as this gentleman right here, who did. Anytime I see Wolverine jumping at a Sentinel's head and it looks like this, I'm going to get it. I even got a Hunt for Wolverine, which is not a good book, or no, Return of Wolverine, which is not a good book actually either. For the most part, I liked some of it. But now that we've just reversed everything, it doesn't matter. But we're not here to talk about that. But this guy, I can't say his name. Inhuik Lee, he's a really cool artist. He's going to be at C2E2. This sumbitch is getting signed for sure. Definitely. And then, yes, yeah, and in the one I tweeted about the Jim Lee Hidden Gem variant, that as soon as I saw this, I had to make it mine. Jim Lee's my favorite Wolverine artist. Jim Lee is my favorite artist, period. But his Wolverine is my favorite Wolverine. And he's signing this. I just bought my thing to get it signed in front of a CGC, the comic book ratings people. They're going to be right there watching him sign that, along with I'm gonna have him sign Uncanny X-Men #248. His first, I think it's 248. Is it 248? I think it's something like 248 or 245. His first Uncanny X-Men book. Anyway, let's talk about Wolverine #1. We've got our Wolverine set up from various times that the book was out. First thing you need to talk about is the price, $7.99 for the standard covers. Now, this was $7.99. This kick-ass Alex Ross was $7.99. The Inhook Lee was $7.99. I'm going to tell you how much the Jim Lee one cost, but a lot of these were standard $7.99. But is this worth the cover price? A lot of these big books that promise you extra story and all that stuff, usually it's like an annual where they give you a decent taste of a good story, and then you get like a B story that really sucks. This book took forever to read in a good way. Every bit of this book is worth it. For real. Ben Percy's gone on record that this is not just, some book to him, and I see it when I read X-Force. He gets Wolverine. It is so, it's such a relief that my favorite X-Man is Gambit. My favorite Marvel character is Wolverine. And I know that that's cliche as fuck, but I just can't help it. He's the reason first time I saw Wolverine on a copy of an old 321 Contact magazine that we got as a subscription when we were kids. 321 Contact used to be a educational show, and on this issue they had the X-Men on there. And this was really early 80s. And I saw this guy in brown and gold, kind of like brownish, yellowish, tan. And he had these claws that popped out of his, and I was in. I was like, who is that? I want to know this character. And I've been in love with Wolverine ever since. He's this short, scrappy, hairy fire plug that just, can take all the damage, and he's, you never know how old he is, and he got memory problems, and he's in love with a woman who's in love with him, who's with another guy. There's just so much about him that I resonates with me. I'm a short, scrappy, hairy guy. And, I want to tell everybody this right now. I'm going to another convention in like August at Wizard World Chicago, and I will be cosplaying as Patch. I was gonna go full Wolverine, but I'm gonna be doing Patch because nobody ever does Patch. Why not? It's also kind of simple. But anyway, so Wolverine's my favorite character, and it's nice to see that Ben Percy likes and understands the character as much as I feel like I understand the character. He also like Wolverine in this Dawn of X series has been like a lot of people have said, and I agree, is one of the only characters that actually still seems like himself for the most part. You know, he's happy, which is weird, but we've seen him not be so happy in X-Force. There's been a lot of things uh, in X-Force that are very Wolverine and not very happy. In fact, but also, it's a Wolverine that I've been wanting to see again for so long. We were dealing with so long the aging of Wolverine and like the death of Wolverine. You know, like this Wolverine since Dawn of X started, since House of X started, and Powers of 10. This Wolverine feels like, he's not as old, like, he doesn't carry that age with him because of I think it might have to do with the resurrection protocols and stuff, but he doesn't feel old. He feels like the guy that you saw back in like the 60s. Or even, a character that was running around and like without even being in the comics yet. He just feels like a younger, more virile Wolverine, but still having all the knowledge of old Wolverine. Um, and so in this book, I've been rambling, and I apologize because I love this book and I love Wolverine. And Adam Kubert is great. He's a veteran. Both the Kuberts uh, were great at drawing X-Men and Wolverine back in the 90s and off and on. There was always a good solid person on an X book and a Wolverine book, whether it wasn't Silvestri or John Romita Jr. on Uncanny and Kubert on Uncanny, or another Kubert on Wolverine. There was always just like somebody good in this book, and it's nice to see Kubert in here. And then there's Victor Bogdanovic, that's in the second part, and he's really good too. I'm not as familiar with his work because I think he's mostly DC, but this first issue. This first part of the story, the Flower Cartel, you've seen in the preview. If you read this and you've seen this, it's in the preview. And I mean, I just love the art, the storytelling right up front here. Where look at that, him all just completely fudged up. I don't know why I'm saying fudged. He's completely fucked up. He's all apart. Like, look at him. He's coming back together, and he sees that he's killed his X-Force team. Or at least we're meant to believe that he killed his X-Force team. And he doesn't know who he is. Which is par for course for Wolverine. He's always known who he is, but now he doesn't know who he is. But he doesn't know his past. And so he sees like this trail leading off somewhere. And both of these stories that we have are mysteries, in my opinion. This one a little bit more so. Where he's following this trail to find out who lived through this fight. And it's called the Flower Cartel. And it's about how Wolverine and the X-Force get drawn into finding out these people are using flowers and turning it into drugs that people are using. And we get to see this happy side of Wolverine here. Playing hide-and-go-seek with the kids of Krakoa. Jean exposing him because he's hiding too good. And he's calling it, I was teaching them like survival skills. And we get another good moment with Kitty Pryde. Now, like in the X-Men Fantastic Four book that Zdarsky wrote, we got a good version of Kitty Pryde. We got Kitty Pryde, who a lot of us, I think a lot of people agree, is the Kitty Pryde that we're supposed, that we all know and love. Not as much as from the Jerry Duggan Marauders Kitty Pryde. Now, this is kind of a mix of the two because she's sitting there keeping her own, drinking with Wolverine. Now, see, here's this makes sense, though. Her trying to go toe-to-toe with Wolverine, drinking, and them catching up. Because they're close. They have a lot of history. A lot of history. And so that makes sense, seeing her, getting drunk off of bad whiskey with Wolverine. And it's pretty much her talking about him being happy. But this is where, he's like, well, you came down here for a reason. What's the trouble? And they talk about these drugs that are coming out, this pollen that's coming off, and people using it as a drug. Now, we're also introduced to this other character. His name is Agent Bannister, and he's on the trail of the drugs that are being made from these krakoan plants. And he's like the guy that's like deep undercover guy who's seen a lot of shit, and he hasn't seen anything like this pollen. And the white page, at least in this, because a lot of these white pages kind of, in my opinion, have been kind of nothing. There's been some fun ones. There's been some, there's New Mutants. Even if you don't like the New Mutants, some of their white pages are pretty funny. In the most recent New Mutants, there's like a whole white page that's like, roll the dice to see how the story goes. Now, it doesn't really do anything for the story. You just turn the page and, something happens. But I thought it was fun. But in this, it just gives us, what pollen is. And it's like this epidemic level street drug in a short space of time. There have been many versions available worldwide, but the only consistent source and product comes to the so-called flower cartel. And we get a description of Jeff Bannister, kind of our background into this guy, that he's a senior narcotics agent notable for his decorated history in the Sinaloa and Chihuahua states of Mexico, as well as his undercover work in Colombia and Venezuela. Divorced, daughter has leukemia, and he was granted a stateside transfer to be near his daughter. He's been reporting to multiple superiors, one of whom he suspects has a shadow group within the agency devoted to mutant surveillance. When he proposed to arrange a covert operation with a team posing as members of the narcotics trade eager to do business with the flower cartel, he did not run into the usual tangle of red tape and debriefings, but instead received an immediate green light and seemingly unlimited resources. So there's, this sounds like they want him to go on this case, but they also want him to get in information on what's going on with the mutants and how this drug is being... I think there's something nefarious going on with the people that are running the show here. Because they had no budget, or an unlimited budget for a job like this is pretty suspect. They basically want a meeting, but there's a location that they're going to in deep country Alaska. So Wolverine goes to Sage, and he says he wants hits on wherever there's high concentrations of this pollen showing up. And this is kind of like they setting up what the team's going to do. And they get Gateway, and they get X-Force, and they got to go in there. And I love this moment between Jean and Wolverine. There's a couple of them in here where it's like, be careful, Logan, whatever or whoever it is we're dealing with, they're not afraid, and they're pulling this off undetected. That might mean it's an inside job. I don't know, but keep your claws popped and your friends close. And they have that look on their faces, and they're holding hands. And we still haven't had any kind of real proof that her and Cyclops and Wolverine are having a devil's three-way or whatever. I don't know what that means actually. There's an arrangement, but they don't really talk about it. And I like that. They just kind of leave it to your imagination. We get more from this agent who sees his daughter, and he's trying to get her the drugs, which I feel like the only part of this story that I just kind of go is why doesn't he... I'm hoping that, and it's kind of obvious to me that he's going to get something from them to help his daughter. At least you hope that he does get help for his daughter. And then we get a little bit of the Order of X on the next white page. And that's pretty much it, I think, for the white page, is really them describing mutants, or the people that worship mutants. But in this, we see the extreme side of this, where they not just worship mutants, but they want to consume everything that is a mutant. If they can take it in, then they think that they can get what the mutants have. So they zap themselves in. And again, the art from Kubert, which I forgot I was reading and looking at Kubert art, because he's really developed as he's gone on in his life, in his career. Like this does not look like the old stuff that he did. It's a whole new interpretation, in my opinion, and it's really, really good. So Kid Omega thinks that this is a big old like party, and he just like decides to jump in there and like, yeah, yeah, I like these people, they love us, but see, they start doing the drug. They have the pollen, and now that they have the pollen, they don't just want that. They want to actually consume their blood. And I love this great page here, Domino and everybody, Gateway in the background. He's like, let's try not to kill these people, but because then you get this. So claws out, arms or legs getting chopped up to bits, and everybody's getting taken down, and they find out all these people suddenly start dying, and they realize it's not them, that it's the pollen that's killing them, with a little help of Kid Omega and Wolverine's claws and Domino shooting him and that kind of thing. So Wolverine goes to Moscow, right? And he starts threatening these guys, in plain old street clothes, pops the claws out, puts him up against guys, tells him, I want to know, where'd you get the flowers? And they say at first from her, and they say her who? The pale girl. At first she is the one we are dealing with at the flower cartel. She sells us the pollen, but only if we work for her. So we steal petals from hospital in Sokovia, try to our garden our own, but she doesn't like that. And she made him take out a lighter and like burn his eyes. So they're dealing with somebody with, powers of suggestion and telepathy, I guess. Or somebody who can make you do whatever with their mind. And so the next page, we've got like a concurrent story with the CIA and what's going on at Krakoa. And with like Beast and Wolverine talking and Bannister talking to his people. And the stories are beginning to converge here to where we get to where Wolverine is now in Alaska, where that meeting was taking place. And he sees this pale girl out in the middle of nowhere. Right? Really cool. Snikt. And he's out there and he runs into Bannister, who's like, who the hell are you? And he's like, I really wish I could tell you that, but I don't know. So really great beginning. And then we're just halfway through, man. Look at this book. Look at that. And it has weight, real weight to it, where I just want to be careful with it. Now, the second story is also, again, it helps that both stories are written by Percy. So this is called Catacombs, all right? And Wolverine's running around on Krakoa talking about how everything is there. The island changes all the time. Villains are working to save the world. Enemies are your neighbors now. And it says, but as someone who's done terrible things and moved past them, I suppose I gotta trust the same as possible for everybody else. Now, what we're talking about here is possible redemption story. In Weapon X, recently, their last story, one of their last stories was involving Omega Red, and how Omega Red was freed from basically the what was controlling him in Russia. That they were making him this way in a way. There's also other details that they talk about in this book, but Omega Red was starting to turn towards a more redemptive arc. I'm not going to say full-on hero. It just he found there's another way. He doesn't have to be the villain. And so with the foreshadowing issue that was in House of X Powers of 10, where they show Omega Red coming through one of the krakoan gates, I was really psyched because one of the cool things about the Jim Lee run in X-Men in the 90s was the creation of Omega Red, who, after a while though, it became like, what do you do with this guy? After a while, he just kind of showed up to start shit, and the story really wasn't all that impactful after years and years and years of doing the same thing. I even busted out my old X-Men number 4 here that coincides with my shirt. And, I mean, that's fucking dope. But I always liked the character because he's like a Russian Wolverine, except he's also can siphon the life force out of people. And like Wolverine says, I suppose I gotta trust the same as possible for everyone else. And he sees Omega Red coming behind him, right? He's like, but not this guy, not him, not after everything we've been through, together, knowing, like the history and all the people he's killed, and he's calling him a straight up psychopath. And he's not wrong about his feelings, but I was concerned that are we just going to go have a reversal of the Weapon X storyline and Omega Red storyline that they had built up? Were they going to ignore that? And they don't. They don't ignore it. So at least he comes through here looking for amnesty, and Magneto has to stop Wolverine, like literally dead in his tracks, from killing him or attacking him, making things worse. And he says he's welcome here too. He might be covered in blood, but much of it is his own. And so he sends Wolverine through the Krakoan gate that he came from, and he ends up in Paris. And again, also, I want to mention the art in this story, fucking great. Bogdanovic, come to Marvel and work on some X-Men books. We need some good artists. And so he finds the car that he was in, and he assumes like this is Omega Red's, and he finds like this person inside, and he's like, oh shit, like if he's been siphoning the life force off of these people, he hasn't changed at all. So he goes back, and he's like, he's sick down to the marrow. The rules ain't, and he's like, this guy's different, 100% grade A psycho. And Magneto's like, well, there are those who would say the same of both of us. There are kids on this island, for Christ's sake. What if something happens, and that's a big if, then he will be punished accordingly. Rest assured, resurrection will be available if any become his prey. Resurrection's irrelevant. Immortality doesn't erase trauma. I know that better than anyone. And that's the one thing that I always kept thinking about. Whenever anybody talks about stakes, there's no stakes. To the resurrection protocols, I keep thinking, yeah, but when you die and you come back, you remember that trauma of dying. I mean, think about Kate Pryde in Marauders, right? Or Kitty Pryde. She's dead in Marauders. She's going to come back and remember drowning and that horror of drowning all alone, all your friends gone. So yeah, you can come back and and live, but that fear, like dying is not gonna, it's not fun. I don't think I have to say that to anyone. I don't want to die. Like even if I knew that I could come back, but somebody said, yeah, you can come back 100% for sure, but the only way for you to come back is to go down in a hail of gunfire or something. Be like, well, then I'll just wait until I die naturally and then come back. Well, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying. So he goes in there. He tells him, you don't know the whole story. He'll remain in his holding cell in both and wait to be debriefed. And your job is to find out what he's done and clean it up. So he goes to see Omega Red. And he's just making sure, like, I love that he stretches out the ropes, You think he's attacking him, but he's really not. He's really not. He's like, I'm just making sure he's done his job. And Wolverine's like, you should know there's no good cop coming. Just me. Well, why interrogate me if you've already condemned me? Don't play the Vic. I know what you are. And what am I? You're the kind of sick fuck who'd make a bloodbath of a nursing home and treat a pregnancy ward like a buffet. Maybe so, but what if there's somebody worse than me? The bodies you left behind at the Champs Elysees and the sick grin on your face tell me otherwise. Unless I didn't kill them. I know, you don't believe me, but I'm too tired to argue right now. I'm going to rest. I need my rest. And while I rest, you should go to the King's Oubliette. Then we'll see if you feel the same way about me. So he goes to this place, and he meets this girl, and he immediately sees, takes one look at a pretty face, and he's like, hey, you good looking? I'll be back to pick you up later. How about we go get ourselves a drink at this place? And he goes inside this bar, and he sits down, he has a drink. Now, why he doesn't sense that there was something wrong with that drink, I don't know. Why doesn't he smell it in the drink, knowing that somebody tries to drug him? But they drug him, and he ends up tied up upside down. in which these guys decide that they want to bleed them out and drink them because they're vampires. Now this is where we just get the ultra violence, which I'm so happy to see is in spades here. We get heads cut off. We get people getting their freaking whole chest cavities punctured. It's glorious. And I mean, they even they even have a tap. They have a spigot that they're gonna use for him. They're gonna tap him like a keg. So he goes off. He starts cutting people down. And the girl saves him with a UV gun. So she's a vampire hunter. And now they're going in because the vampires are trying to make their move. Because everything that's been going on, why not vampires too? And honestly, it sounds like fun. So they're going on this mission and they talk more about Omega Red. And he's like, were you trying to get me killed? And he's like, no, I was trying to show you the truth. But how could I murder them if they were already dead? Those people were prisoners, bitten, infected, trapped deep in the catacombs until their transition was complete. Maybe I've changed. And he's like, don't you put that out, he's like talking to him about, you can't change what you are. And he's like, you're the one who kept the carbonadium synthesizer from me all those years. You, Logan. So you're the one who created in me the need to kill. And that's true. That's true. There's you have to know the whole story, but it is something that, sometimes choices are made back in, this is one of those choices that's kind of coming back to haunt Logan. He's like, don't you put that on me, don't you dare. You were a killer long before you got lab in hand spilling blood as natural to you as breathing. And he goes, did you know I've been relying on animals? So he's been not feeding on people. He's been feeding on animals and dogs and cats and rats. Like, kind of like when Dracula, right? Like a vampire would go to ground and didn't have, any resources. They'd be eating rats. But he's doing it because he doesn't want to kill. He doesn't want to kill anymore. He doesn't want to be the monster that he was before. He's trying to change. And with Krakoa, maybe this is his chance. And the story is his chance. But unfortunately, that's not quite where it goes. But so Wolverine goes back and teams up with the vampire hunter, and I just love this. She's like got all these weapons and crossbows, and he's just like, I got right what I need right here. Snickety snicked. This book is overwhelmed with snickety snicked. All right, not too much. I love it. So they go in there, and all these vampires come out. They fall down this like trap. He's like, just hold on to me. She's like, why? And he gets impaled while she's safe. All these vampires start coming out. She's blasting them, and they come across. They come out, and he's, again more snickety snick, cutty, blasting vampires, and they want to drink his blood. They want him, and he just basically stands there, right? He stands there, and he's like, come on. And he lets them all like jump on him, take a taste, because he can't turn. He won't give in to that. Like, it basically his healing factor lets him recover. And in the midst of it, he kills, like, when they jump on him, he comes up with the guy's head that was like their leader. And we find out, of course, because you can't have a bunch of vampires without Dracula. And so she's like, your mutants have united, but so have the vampires. The mutant nation might seem invincible, but the vampire nation is growing stronger. You have Charles Xavier. They have Vlad, Dracula. And so, yeah, he was in the Avengers storyline not too long ago, the fight against Dracula. He's got a bunch of blood coming into him. And honestly, Wolverine being able to take out a bunch of vampires is pretty great. And I can hope this continues in this story. But we've got 2 storylines, so I don't know if every issue is going to be this big. But I'll pay $8 as long as the books are this good. And we find out that Omega Red is working with the vampires. They give him the synthesizer that Wolverine was withholding from him. But it has a detonator in it, so a very Suicide Squad kind of thing. It's because it means you remain in my service. It means the Vampire Nation has plans. It means that the mutants will not interfere with them. And how the hell am I supposed to prevent that from happening? Join them, but obey me. So, like, just when I thought, like he wants the synthesizer so he doesn't have to kill, but unfortunately he's already betraying his newfound friends on Krakoa, just like Wolverine kind of expected him. You can't change who you are, but it's like I'm hoping that somehow down the line we can work it out. I think I'm maybe reaching, but that is a fantastic book, and I can't wait to keep going. Ben Percy knows Wolverine so well. Bogdanovic's art, Kubert's art, all an amazing package. It's the best book of the week. Daredevil has always been good, but this is a brand new book, and and maybe it's a little unfair that it's like really super long and really super well written and super really well drawn. But this is the book of the week. Duh. As far as like major studio books go, I haven't read Undiscovered Country #4 yet, so who knows? That'll probably be the indie book of the week. But Wolverine #1 comes with my highest fucking recommendation. If you can go pick out a copy, this is the book to jump in, man. You don't have to read the Donna X books, I think, to enjoy Wolverine. Wolverine's doing his own thing, and I don't even care that there are two stories running concurrently. Don't care, because they're both good. So, if you like this review, please hit the like button, comment, share, subscribe if you're not a subscriber to the channel. Otherwise, keep reading comics. You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Have a great day, everybody, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.